Hey everyone, welcome back to Berlin Noir. Today this episode is going to feature several smaller builds. Not really going to be working on just one thing, although the episode title is about the under construction U-Bahn line, which will come later in the episode. But for the most part, yeah, just several smaller builds, filling in some areas, and just trying to grow out the city, really. But anyways, I guess what I'm beginning with here is based off of the real-life location, which is the U-Bahn through the house, which, based on its name, is exactly what it is. It is a rail line that goes through a house and then just squeezes between a block of buildings and then eventually goes underground. It's a very interesting little place in Berlin. Pretty cool looking. But yeah, that's what this is going to be. It's in a different location than in real life. That's mostly due just to the fact that my rail lines around here are not quite accurate to what they were like back then or today. I more or less just drew up some random rail lines that looked good, came off of the several train stations I have here, and went alongside the rail yard there that's to the right. But yeah, so in real life, there's a interesting looking U-Bahn station, the Glidestrike U-Bahn station, which is located in what used to be the very center of the rail yard back in 1929. Right there, as you see, is the rail yard, which was built by Pingyao on a guest build several weeks ago. But yeah, so in real life, there is that train station in pretty much smack dab in the middle of the rail yard. And I never really ever had plans of putting that particular station in the middle of the rail yard, mostly just because it's I already kind of said, but it's a interesting shape. It's a very unique looking station. It's not just a single track that's a linear looking station. It's more or less a triangle. But yeah, so there's really no station on the on the workshop that I could fit in there that would look decent, other than I guess I could have just put a plain station there, but I don't know. I didn't, when I told Pingyao about the build and when he was working on the rail yard for the guest build, I left that out just because, I didn't really have plans on doing that because I didn't want to take away from the rail yard itself, because just picturing it in my head, I thought it would look kind of funny having a station there going over a rail yard. I could be wrong, but yeah, so because I never planned for it, it's not really a possibility now to place that station there. So instead, I will probably still place down a couple U-Bahn stations on the opposite side of the canal that runs nearby there, I guess on the northern end, along the train stations. There are several U-Bahn stations there, which are just plain pretty small, that run along the canal there. I will do that most likely in the future, but yeah, that's something small that won't probably be coming anytime soon. But yeah, so I guess moving on from that, this is where we get into the under construction U-Bahn line. And originally, I was considering putting this immediately after the area I just built. I was like, I might as well just put it there, have the tunnel or have the rail line go through the house and then go into the tunnel underground, and then on the other side I'd have this here. But then it was like, I don't know, I feel like that'd be kind of wasting what I just built, because obviously this is under construction, and I would imagine it wouldn't be operating. I mean, I could be wrong, who knows. Early 1900 safety measures, especially for construction, safety measures probably weren't very existent. I mean, who knows? I could be wrong, but just thinking of large construction projects in the U.S., during the Gilded Age or up into World War II, safety measures didn't really exist. If you think of skyscrapers in New York City or, Golden Gate Bridge, stuff like that, where, those are definitely more dangerous than a simple U-Bahn line. But, considering how dangerous that was and there were no safety measures, I'd imagine that there wouldn't be any here as well. So, I'd imagine there'd be no actual, or who knows, there could be a train line running. But anyways, and also regarding safety measures, I didn't really put any fences or anything to block off this area. So it looks a little funny, but there are some people biking down the sidewalk and walking down the sidewalk. But it is what it is. But anyways, so so this was recommended by one of the subscribers, and it was a cool idea for sure. I didn't really think about that, to build a U-Bahn line under construction, but once he brought that up, it's like, yeah, it's definitely something I could do. So what I thought about doing was, he did provide some images. They were actually based off of there's a fire collapsed, it collapsed, and there was basically rebuilding it. Whereas this here, I was more just thinking about like an actual just new line. So no sort of disaster happened here. It was just expanding the U-Bahn network, and they decided to do it along here. So what I did was, I took these these props here, which are meant for actual like houses under construction house prop pack. I forget exactly what it's called, but it just gave you a bunch of props so you can more or less build your own houses under construction and have the little skeleton of the houses be however you want, which is cool. A lot of work if you were to actually do that, but what I did here was use it as more or less supports for the actual construction. Eventually the construction would finish here, and they would cover up the U-Bahn line, with pavement or grass, whatever it may be. So all this is, just supports and structure for until they eventually cover it up. I placed down some little walkways there for workers to cross, so they don't have to walk around. But and then here in the middle, where I guess eventually, once the construction would be finished, the road would connect over it, I decided to place the iron I-beams here, or steel I-beams, I suppose, not iron. But just more or less just to add something different, so it wasn't just wood. But also realistically, I imagine they would definitely throw stronger steel supports here. It is a road after all. Not that there's large semis crossing it. It's small cars, small trucks back then. But I imagine that there would need to be little stronger supports underneath, so the nothing were to collapse. But that was my thinking there. I do add some more props on the inside of the construction on the actual tracks later on. I just wasn't sure of what to put yet when I was building it, so I just wanted to move on and build up a little block around it, just give my brain a sec to relax and just think, because when I'm building, I've pretty sure I've mentioned this before, but I like taking small breaks when I'm building something, just so usually outside of this game, when I'm working on real life things, usually my good ideas come when I just take a break, focus on something else for a sec, and then next thing I wouldn't have thought of that otherwise, because sometimes you just get too focused on something that you're not able to relax and expand your mind for a sec to actually come up with new ideas. So that's always my thinking when I jump around, and rather than just finishing something out and then moving on, because there's nothing very complicated with building a small little block like this. Just placing the buildings down in interesting shaped block, and then trees in the back, and then I added some just like pavement walkways. But yeah, and I guess also one thing which I did do off camera but is definitely worth noting is that church there, right there to the left of the screen, the Apostle Paul Church, I believe it's called, located in Schöneberg. But in the second episode of the series, so several months ago, I actually placed that church, basically like half a mile away from the Brandenburg Gate, or probably even less so. Because back then, when the series originally started, I was going more for a just generic German city with a few iconic Berlin locations I was going to build. So I placed the church over there because it was a very, very nice asset, a very beautiful church, and I just wanted to make that particular area of the city look nice. So I kept it there all the way up until this episode, because I realized that church actually belongs in this area which I happen to be building in. So, and since as this series has progressed, it's become more and more a replica of real life Berlin, back in 1929. So it made sense to just copy the church that I had over there and then just paste it down there. So it is the exact same church. I did nothing else to it. So in case you want to see me, actually build that, I recommend checking out that video. Again, I'm pretty sure it was the second video of the series. It's where we build part of the Tiergarten as well as that church. But yeah, so go ahead and check that out if you are curious. But so moving on from that, I guess just continuing more building, these blocks, trying to change up the shape of the blocks so there's not just, a bunch of square rectangular blocks. Although surprisingly, especially near the Brandenburg Gate, in that area up into Museum Island, really that segment of Berlin is really just a bunch of, blocks, which is, at least, from an American standpoint, when you think of European cities, most people think of crazy roads, old European cities, which is definitely true. But considering, I guess, Berlin was, doesn't have a very old history, at least what remains today, there's a lot more, it's definitely a lot more planned out than some other European cities, or some other German cities for that matter. But, yeah, so out here, as you look, when I looked on the map, the roads definitely get a little more sporadic. Apparently, they appear to be less planned, which is definitely feels more European to me. But again, that's also from an American standpoint. But yeah, I don't know. It looks cool. But anyway, so this particular location here, with this little train station here, I actually built most of it off camera several weeks ago. It's just an area I just wanted to build without having to worry about recording and just mess around with some stuff. And actually turned out quite nice as I was building it. So I was like, shoot, I probably should have actually recorded this so I could make a video of it. So instead what I did was left some of it still to be detailed, which is, this area which I am doing now. I plopped down a metro station there, which is non-functional. There's no networks connected since I'm not actually using any metro networks for stations. However, I did draw, or I guess use some paths, because I have a path going from that station there underground to an underground rail station. So I happened to find a underground, I guess, metro station, but rather than a metro station, it is for trains, which is what I want, because really none of the metro assets or networks in this game look like they could work in a historical city, from the 1929. They're way too modern, and even the ones that aren't super modern, they still just don't look right. So yeah, I won't ever be using any sort of metro networks or systems in the game. But that does bring me to another important point. Several weeks ago I mentioned that I wanted to find an asset of the U-Bahn train, since currently the only train that I have that's going on these networks is the S-Bahn train, which works for a lot, because originally I was just, there you can see the underground station and the path that I'm drawing. But before I was doing any of this, it was just purely S-Bahn elevated stations. But, a significant portion of these elevated stations are actually, U-Bahn networks. So I wanted to find an U-Bahn train that matched, the older look, because I found one train that was actually an U-Bahn train, not a metro train, but an actual train, but it was a modern one, so definitely something I couldn't use. But so I guess if any of you who maybe want, have messed around with making your own assets, or I don't know, maybe took other creators' assets and converted them into different things, props, other vehicles, whatever it may be. If you have any sort of, experience with that, I would love it if you could, help me out and take the one U-Bahn metro train on the workshop, of course with the permission of the creator. But if you could take that and actually convert it into an actual train vehicle rather than a metro train. Because I've tried pretty much everything I could possibly could. The train converter mod, the metro converter mod, different rail replacer mods. I tried everything. Closest I got was being able to convert the S-Bahn train into a metro train. But of course, that's not what I want. I want to convert a metro train into a train. But I'm pretty sure there's no way I can possibly do that with just the mods on the workshop. So yeah, if any of you, want to try it out, try and convert a metro train into an actual train, please let me know, because that would be awesome. Because right there in the, construction site, I got a prop of the S-Bahn train, the U-Bahn train. And, I love just its appearance, just a yellow, bright yellow train. It looks awesome. And I want to have that, running around the city in addition to the S-Bahn train I have going around. Because, it looks repetitive having a bunch of S-Bahn trains going around and going underground when really those should be, the U-Bahn lines. But if any of you are capable of, converting a train into what I'm looking for, yes, totally let me know and let's make that happen. But anyways, so moving on from that, we're getting pretty close to the end of the episode. And so now that I've actually looked at the whole video and the end, I did actually do the final detailing of the construction site there off camera. I thought I was recording, I believe, but I'm not really sure what happened there, so sorry about that. It's nothing too big. You'll see it in the cinematics. I also keep the prop version of the U-Bahn train there in the cinematics because, I really just do love that vehicle there. It looks very cool and adds so much to the scene, even though it's not moving, but, hopefully that'll change. But, I hope you guys all enjoyed this episode today. Continue letting me know your ideas of what you want to see built. I do plan on having an overview episode coming soon, within probably 3 episodes from now. Episode 15 is when I probably plan on doing it. A number of you recommended me to do that, and that's definitely something I want to do because we've built a good amount of the city, and we've definitely begun expanding some ways outside of where this whole thing began. So look forward to that. Probably episode 15, I imagine. A good number to do so, I guess, as any. But, So, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. And the, more sporadic builds, not focusing on one thing. But, so that's going to be it. I guess a few seconds left. Just leave you to 20 seconds of music, and that'll be it. But for that, I will see you next time.